This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by FreshBooks. They fresh to death. Welcome to Film Riot Mondays, which is the show you're currently watching. Congratulations, you're not dead. It's great.
That is good for them.
That's great.
That's pretty great.
That's
I
great.
Sneeze.
What?
I sneeze.
Well, do it that way. Stop looking at me.
Oh, it's one of those ones where it's like it's there, but it's not.
That's awesome. Face your head that way.
Oh, here it comes.
That way.
There it comes.
That way.
There it comes.
Turn your head. NYC, Hollywood, or Austin better for filmmakers? Hollywood is definitely what I would say. New York is great, has a lot of stuff going on there. Austin is up and coming, has some stuff going on there, but Hollywood really is like the hub of all things filmmaking. Tips for a one-man band filmmaker. I did the one-man band thing for like the first 3/4 of my career, and I found it very liberating most of the time, just being able to harness everything just in yourself and just go with things, not having to communicate stuff. That can be hard to communicate your vision to people. That was actually a learning curve for me, which we've talked about on the show. One of the hardest parts about doing the one-man band thing, though, is that you need to be proficient in a little bit of everything. You need to be sort of a jack of all trades. So the main tip I would give you is just dive in and study all aspects: audio, visual, everything, directing, writing, the editing. Even if you're not editing, if you're just one-man band in production, you need to know about all those things since you're the only one on set at the time that's really pushing things through. So you need to know what you need to get so you're not shooting yourself or whoever else in the foot in post-production. What process of filmmaking do you find the most fun to do? Shooting, writing, editing, etc. For me, it's whatever process I'm in the middle of is the one that I'm most in love with at the time. I just love every aspect. And once I'm in the middle of that aspect, I really dive into it and fall in love with it. In writing, it's just about breaking the story and finding the characters and having those little epiphanies. It's just great. But usually, by the time I'm done with it, I'm very ready to get to shooting. And then once inside of that, I'm just totally in love with doing it. And it's all I want to do. And once we're finished, I'm usually wishing we were still shooting. But then once I start editing, I just fall in love with that entirely. And that's all I want to be doing, just finding all those tricks, those little magic tricks to fix problems that you find that, you know, came before that you can now fix in editing. So for me, it's whatever I'm in the middle of is usually what I'm in love with. But then by the time I get done with editing, I'm very ready to be done with editing, and I'm wanting to start writing again, and just round and round it goes. Best export settings for YouTube. I use H.264 and I crank it up a bit. I use Adobe Premiere, and exporting through that, they actually have presets for YouTube that are really good. So if you have Adobe Premiere, go in and use those presets. If not, check out this episode right here where we talk about how we do our settings for exporting to the web. Are there any ways that you keep Film Riot fresh for yourselves? I tried a weekly show and it became stale after a while. From the start of Film Riot, I purposefully set it up to be the type of show where we could do whatever we want and it wouldn't necessarily be breaking the format, because there almost wasn't one. I mean, there is a format in a way, but we really could do whatever we want and people would just accept it, because that's how we set Film Riot up. It's all over the place. It's hyperactive and nuts. I mean, we even just did Film Riot's Epic Summer, which was totally different than anything else we've done before, and it just worked within what we do because that's just how we set it up. You never know what's gonna come from Film Riot, and that is what keeps me interested. Basically, how I keep Film Riot from getting stale is I just keep myself from being bored with it. So once I'm bored with a certain type of way we're doing something, I just do something else. We just follow what we're interested in, and it's usually fueled very much by the type of questions you guys submit, which are always interesting and things we hadn't thought of, and then we just follow that. Last question, how much time does it take to find your style in directing and cinematography? I really don't know. That's such a difficult thing for me. It was always something very weird and interesting for me to try to find that, just that idea of what is your voice, like people are always talking about. And I think your style in directing and everything, it's just going to come over time. As long as you're not trying to impersonate anything anybody else is, just replicate entirely what somebody else has done before you. As long as you're just taking inspiration from it, not trying to copy it, over time, I think you're just going to fall into whatever your style is. I don't think you need to be obsessed with trying to find your style. Just use whatever it is your voice is. Your voice is just the collection of whatever has made you the person you are. So no one's going to tell the story like you're going to tell it, because you're telling it through your eyes. So if you just tell it honestly how you see it, I think that really is your voice, and over time, that's going to lend itself to you discovering what your style is. FreshBooks makes things simple, but their specialty is to make your life easier when it comes to invoicing, getting paid, and tracking expenses. If you're doing any freelance work or have a business of any kind on the side or full time, you need to know about FreshBooks. It's an online tool and the absolute easiest way to get all your accounting done very fast. Everyone dreads doing stuff like sending invoices and getting your numbers straight, but that's where FreshBooks makes it really simple. Your clients pay you online, your expenses are tracked automatically, and all the spending details about your cash flow are in one place, so you always know where you stand. You can even see the full history of any invoice, so you'll know if your client has looked at your invoice or not. So head over to freshbooks.com/FilmRiot, and don't forget to enter FilmRiot in the How Did You Hear About Us section. So that's it for today, which means it's time for my suggestion of the week. This one is called Summer. It's a CG short film, under 10 minutes, definitely worth a watch. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.